I'm Lindsey Smith, welcoming you to Raise the Line with Osmosis from Elsevier, an ongoing exploration about how to improve health and healthcare. We've talked a lot on the podcast about the application of artificial intelligence in clinical practice, but not as much about how AI is impacting the education of future clinicians. Today, I'm excited to dive into that consequential area with my colleague, Paul Crockett, Senior Vice President of Global Product and Chief AI Officer at Elsevier. In this role, Paul is responsible for leading global product strategy and enterprise AI initiatives across Elsevier's healthcare education portfolio of solutions that help healthcare professionals build knowledge, develop clinical judgment, and prepare for practice. Prior to joining Elsevier, Paul was the CEO and co-founder of Office, an edtech company acquired by Elsevier in 2020, and held leadership positions at the global education company Pearson. Thanks so much for joining us today, Paul.
Thanks for having me, Lindsey.
So to get started, can you share a little bit about your background? What first inspired your interest in publishing and education?
Certainly, it's probably a longer story than you really want to hear, but I'm in the 31st year of my career in educational publishing and technology. And honestly, the initial interest was trying to find a field of work that combined my interests around learning and business. So I had great respect for teachers, but that wasn't what I was going to do. I loved reading, but I wasn't going to be a writer. And I discovered this field of publishing and the fact that there was a whole business around educational publishing. So out of college, I got my foot in the door in marketing. Soon after that, realized sales was the pathway to what I would really like to do, which was product. And back then it was editorial, so creating books. And that was the path I took. I loved it. And with some serendipity, I ended up being an editor for computer science, which helped shape my interest in educational technology. And that's what I've been working on almost exclusively since 2004.
That's interesting. I always like to hear how people find their way into the industry, and it kind of sets me up nicely for my next question. So kind of looking back to when you first entered the field, how has technology most significantly transformed publishing?
Profoundly. I mean, it's a completely different industry from when I started. There was not anything really resembling ed tech back then, other than maybe, say, floppy disks and that kind of thing. So we've come a long ways. But the biggest shift, I think, is the move from publishing as a production to publishing as a relationship. When I started, the measure of success was kind of getting the best content into the best format and then into people's hands. The book was really the product. Today, the product, you think I'm going to say that the product is the tech. It's not. The product is the learning experience. And that experience is dynamic. It responds to the individual. It improves over time. So technology didn't just change the delivery mechanism, it changed what we think we're actually building, right? How we're actually creating solutions to help faculty and students. The second big shift is data. We now have signal from how students actually engage with content, what they skip, where they get stuck, how they learn, what they return to before an exam. So that behavioral data, if used well, can tell you more about what a learner needs than any sort of static assessment. And that's a profound transformation. It's a big part of what we are working towards at Elsevier and with Osmosis and our other products and what I call precision learning. So super exciting. And I would just say the third thing, which obviously has shifted the entire world underneath our feet over the last couple of years, is AI. And AI, particularly generative AI, is making so much possible that wasn't possible previously.
Thank you for outlining those changes. We're going to get to the AI piece here in just a minute. But before we get there, for our listeners who may not know the structure at Elsevier, can you describe the scope of your team and what you oversee from an Elsevier product standpoint?
Sure. So my team leads global product strategy across Elsevier's healthcare education portfolio. We're responsible for the products that serve nursing and medical education, from content and assessment all the way through AI-enabled learning experiences. So the portfolio is quite broad, but in a very meaningful way focused around healthcare. In nursing education, you have SurePath AI, which is our AI-powered learning platform built into SurePath, our courseware platform. We have Shadow Health, which is screen-based simulation, immersive scenarios where nursing students practice clinical conversations and develop judgment before they ever set foot in a clinical setting. HESI is our flagship assessment platform, which is widely used for nursing readiness and licensure prep. And then on the medical side, we have Clinical Key Student, which is a comprehensive reference and learning resource. Complete Anatomy, which is one of the most advanced 3D anatomy platforms available. And then, of course, Osmosis, which many of your listeners will know very well. It's a remarkable visual learning tool with amazing content. And now we're excited to be launching AI capabilities into Osmosis as well. Across all of these, we've been trying to do the same fundamental thing, which is help healthcare students build knowledge, develop clinical judgment, and then be ready for practice.
Amazing. I want to come back to the AI initiatives, and it's been noted that 74% of medical students are already using AI tools. Where do you believe AI can have the greatest impact in healthcare education?
I would point to 3 places where I think AI makes the most difference, a transformative difference, rather than just incremental. So the first is personalization at scale. Every nursing or medical student has a different knowledge profile, different gaps, different learning pace, as unique as a thumbprint. A human educator simply cannot track all of that across a cohort of 100 students, but AI can, and it can use that understanding to surface the right content at the right moment for each individual learner in the moment of learning. So that's not just efficient, it's really pedagogically powerful and a meaningful shift. The second is, I think, something that has interested me for a long time, and if anyone is familiar with Bloom's Two Sigma, somewhat of a holy grail in ed tech, and that's tutoring. So great tutors don't just answer questions, they probe understanding. They ask, why do you think that? They push back when reasoning is incomplete. So good AI can do this, not replace the faculty member, but give students more of those high-quality back-and-forth learning moments than any instructor-to-student ratio could provide. And what the research does show is that one-to-one tutor relationship can significantly increase the skills and success of any individual student, more so than a traditional lecture environment. But the two modalities can play really well together. So AI can help us develop the type of tutor for each individual student that just simply was not possible even a year and a half ago after generative AI had come off on the scene. But now we're starting to see some things that are very interesting in respect to Bloom's Two Sigma. The third is trust and verifiability. And so I can't talk about our approach to AI without mentioning this. This is absolutely critical for any educational company that is claiming that they're taking AI seriously, particularly in healthcare. So students need to be able to trace an AI's answer back to an authoritative source. This is where we think Elsevier has a distinctive responsibility and an advantage. We can build AI that doesn't just answer questions, but answers in a way that a student can verify and a faculty member can trust.
That's a really great way of framing it. And I think it leads us nicely into Osmosis AI. So what is it and what core problem is it designed to solve for learners?
So Osmosis AI brings together everything that has made Osmosis such a popular product. It's got the visual clarity, the clinical depth, the accessible tone, or, the style of the videos. And then it adds a conversational AI layer that lets students engage with that content dynamically rather than passively. So at its core, it's an intelligent learning sort of companion, I'd say, built specifically for health profession students. So you can ask it a clinical question, as just one example, get a clear answer grounded in Osmosis content as well as Elsevier's best-in-class textbook content. Then you can see the specific sources that the answer draws from, and in many cases get linked directly to the Osmosis video and the books that explain the concept, right? And that combination, trusted content, the verifiable sources, the multimedia, interactive dialogue, that's what makes this different from asking ChatGPT the same question. So we're also deeply committed to what we call responsible AI. And this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about trust. The system that we built is designed with guardrails. It's transparent about its sources and where the answers are coming from, and it's built on our longstanding principles of not reinforcing bias, maintaining human oversight. And in healthcare education, that's not just a nice to have. You have to have this. It's a requirement. And that's what makes us uniquely positioned, whether it's in Osmosis or on the nursing side in our SurePath AI product. That's what makes us uniquely positioned to do that, because we have the best content, the most accurate, trusted content.
That was a great overview. And I know Osmosis AI recently launched this week. So just to kind of play that back a little bit of what you said, it is built within the Osmosis platform, connects directly to the Osmosis videos for an instant visual explanation, and every answer is based on verified Elsevier textbooks and resources. That includes citations. How did I do?
That's perfect. We got to get you on the road, Lindsey.
Okay, perfect. So I want to talk about the most common use cases that you would expect with Osmosis AI for students and faculty.
So this is the exciting part for me, because, and it's probably the most important thing, is the tool has to have utility, right? So based on what we've seen from SurePath AI, which is another conversational AI that we built on the nursing side, we've now had tens of thousands of nursing students using the AI chat, and a few patterns have surfaced. So concept clarification is a top use case. Students encounter something in their coursework that they don't fully understand, and they want an explanation right there, right? Without waiting for office hours or waiting through a textbook. Osmosis AI is exceptionally well suited for that and does the same thing. Another one is exam boards preparation. That's another big one. So students will ask the AI to quiz them, to explain why they got something wrong, to help them approach a category of questions more systematically. And so basically the student is identifying, I don't understand this, or I need to improve on this. And they can get in there and not only sort of get the conceptual answers, but they can actually quiz themselves and practice. And then we have a lot of other utility like that. You can create flashcards, and we have a lot more stuff coming, study guides and things like that. The third, which I find really interesting, is clinical reasoning practice, like working through case-based questions, talking through differentials, developing the kind of thinking process that actually transfers into clinical settings. Some of the students will do this themselves, but also faculty are great at encouraging that type of use. So the use cases are broad. On the faculty side, what's really interesting is we're seeing faculty save time. They might use it to help answer questions for students. That's the obvious one, right? But also they can use it to create content for their lectures, or to create assessments, or to inform their curriculum decisions, or to align to the licensure boards that they're trying to help students prepare for. So honestly, it's putting all of our amazing content from the Osmosis videos and our books, putting it in this construct around an LLM, and allowing the student and the faculty to leverage it for the utility that is most important for them in that moment. And it can do just a huge range of things, just like a ChatGPT or a Claude could if you and I were planning a vacation or something like that. But in healthcare, you want to use something with the right content, and that's where Osmosis AI stands out.
I love those examples. And something we hear a lot from students is just about as they're going through med school and how it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much coming at them. And so I think if Osmosis AI can kind of provide those simple, accurate information so that they can succeed in the classroom and rotations and board exams, that is really helpful for them. I know they'll be excited to start using Osmosis AI. So we've talked a little bit about trust, and I want to kind of direct our attention to data privacy. We often hear about this a lot in conversations with AI. So can you talk a little bit about Osmosis AI and if it stores any data, and if so, for what purpose?
Great question. And this is a really important one. And you're right, we hear it often. It's one of probably the most important questions to get right in education as it relates to leveraging AI. And I want to be direct. Osmosis AI is built under Elsevier's data governance framework, which includes strict protections for student data, or this is what we do. So we do not use student interaction data to train external AI models. Any data that is collected to improve the product is subject to a rigorous review process, transparent consent frameworks, and it's used solely for the purpose of improving the learning experience. We're also acutely aware that students in healthcare programs are sharing content about clinical questions that in context could be sensitive. So the design principle we operate under is students should be able to learn freely and curiously without worrying that their questions are being used against them or shared beyond the learning context. That's fundamental to what we think responsible AI means in education. We go so far as to when it comes to the data that is shared with faculty, it's all anonymized. So faculty can see trends, but they cannot see what any individual student is tracking. So it is something that we take very seriously and is a pillar of the responsible AI program that we put in place for all of our products.
Thank you for clarifying that transparency and trust are so important in these conversations. I want to zoom out a little bit and understand what your long-term vision is for integrating AI into Elsevier products.
Okay, this is probably my favorite question because I've loved to think ahead and where we're heading. The vision that we're working towards is an AI-powered learning system that can actually see each student's learning journey across their entire program, from foundational knowledge all the way through clinical preparation and licensure, and then use that longitudinal understanding to continuously personalize their path. This is, again, what I call precision learning. So today, our products are good at specific things. Osmosis for visual conceptual learning, Shadow Health for clinical simulation, HESI for licensure readiness assessment. The opportunity in the next few years, and we're well on our way, is to connect those signal streams, to know that a student who has a particular gap in clinical reasoning in their osmosis interactions is likely to need targeted support, maybe in their Shadow Health simulation, and to build AI that can act on that predictively. So our products today are very well connected. What we need to do is connect the data that's coming out of those products to really help students when they need it most. We have some great examples of this, like our new personalized learning plan and dashboards that we've created for deans. So we have a long history of clinical and educational content at Elsevier. So the AI opportunity is to turn that from a static library into a dynamic sort of intelligence, one that gets smarter with each learner interaction, that can tell us what works and what doesn't across hundreds of thousands of students, and that gets more valuable over time rather than becoming, something just like another chatbot. Because again, something we talked about throughout this conversation is what's unique for Elsevier is the legacy of our best-in-class content, and then what we know about our users and our student learners and how we can help them when they need it most.
That's an exciting future-looking perspective that you just gave us there. Building on that future-focused outlook, and since at Osmosis, we're all about filling those knowledge gaps, is there a topic that you think Osmosis should make a video about to fill a gap that is of particular concern or of interest to you?
That's a very good question. I have a few ideas, but the thing I've sort of been curious about recently, and I think would be cool, is a series on clinical reasoning, kind of as a skill in and of itself. So not just here's a disease, but here's how an expert clinician thinks when they encounter this presentation from a patient. How do they build a differential? How do they decide what to rule out? How do they adjust when the picture doesn't fit the textbook? So we spend enormous effort teaching kind of a knowledge base of medicine and nursing, but the reasoning process, the actual cognitive process, clinical judgment, often, is secondary. I am personally passionate about this because I built a platform that was designed to put people into real world case studies and understand how they think about solving a problem, not just whether they know the answer, right? Or the content. I think Osmosis's visual storytelling format could make that reasoning process visible and teachable in a way that could genuinely change how students learn to think clinically. And I have a sort of a tagline, that is, we're trying to help students become practice ready, not test ready. The test is super important to get to practice. They have to go through the NCLEX, they have to go through USMLE or the licensure exam, but the end goal is to become a great doctor, a great physician, a great nurse. And in order to be great, you have to know more than just the facts. You have to know how to apply it.
That's a great suggestion. Clinical reasoning. We will be sure to pass that along to the content team, which I imagine will be very excited about that idea. So our audience, is filled with listeners who are students or early career clinicians. What's your advice to them about meeting the challenges of this moment and building a career in medicine?
Interesting question. So get comfortable learning in public. The pace of change in medicine and the tools that the people in the field are using is just accelerating. The professionals who will thrive are those who embrace the uncertainty, the fast pace, who ask questions, who don't wait until, there's certainty before they engage. So that kind of curiosity is a career-long asset, more now than ever. Use AI as a thinking partner, not just a shortcut. The students who I think are going to do best are the ones using tools like Osmosis AI effectively and doing so to probe their own understanding, to argue with the AI, so to speak, to ask follow-up questions, to push until they really get it, and also to have a vision for what they're trying to accomplish. That's the use that kind of builds durable clinical reasoning. And the students who use AI to find answers without doing the reasoning work are going to struggle. And the students who aren't using AI at all are going to get left behind. This is a monumental shift in everything, how we engage with the world, including learning. And so students should be embracing this, not only for their education, but also in preparation for what they're going to experience in the job. And then as someone who I'm married to a nurse, my mom is a nurse, and I have a lot of healthcare professionals in my family. I think it's just a career path that I have great respect for. And I think anybody who is pursuing this should remember why they chose it, why they're doing this. It's one of the most consequential things a person can do with their professional life is focusing on healthcare. And by the way, I think education is the other, probably at the top of the list. And so the technology we're talking about today is remarkable, but it serves a mission that sort of, predates all of it, to reduce suffering and pain for patients, to help them in the moment of need when they're struggling. And I just think that's really important. We all sort of can relate to having just an incredible nurse or healthcare professional help us, and how much respect that we have for them. And I think I would just commend anybody who's pursuing a career in this area. We need more great physicians and nurses and healthcare professionals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We do need more great healthcare professionals in the world today. And I really liked what you said there, to remember the why you chose to work in healthcare. Before we wrap up today's episode, is there anything that we didn't cover that we should have?
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and the great questions. We are so excited to be leading the way in meaningful use of AI for education, and in the focused domain where we exist, which is healthcare. And it's just incredible, the results that we're seeing with SurePath AI and now Osmosis AI. And I appreciate the opportunity. This is a really exciting moment for us to introduce this new tool.
That's a great way to wrap up today's episode. Thanks so much for joining us today, Paul.
Thanks for having me, Lindsey.
And that's going to do it for today's episode of Raise the Line. A huge thank you to Paul Crockett for sharing his insights on how artificial intelligence is reshaping healthcare education and helping prepare the next generation of clinicians. It's an exciting and rapidly evolving space, and we're grateful to have his perspective as Elsevier continues to innovate in support of learners and educators around the world. If you haven't had a chance to try Osmosis AI yet, now is the perfect time. You can start your free trial and experience how it supports your learning, and we'll make sure the links are included in the show notes. I'm Lindsey Smith. Thanks for checking out today's show. Remember to do your part to raise the line and strengthen the healthcare system. We're all in this together.
If you like this podcast, please share it on your social channels. You can also subscribe to the series and check out all of our episodes at osmosis.org/raisethelinepodcast.